Hello my lovely Floss Tube friends. I know it's not been very long at all. I've been working today, very hard. But whilst I was working and through my lunch hour, I was watching some videos. And part of those videos was watching, believe it or not, the Know Your Needlework tag. So a lot of people have done that one. And I've just realised that I've done a tag asking you to answer my questions, yet I've not done any tags myself. So I thought today that might be a good idea. But before I ask you that, or before I tell you all about sort of the tags that I was going to do, I've got a question. Now, obviously, you all know that I've done a Heaven and Earth design. I'm working on another Heaven and Earth design. I'm currently working on my twisted band sampler, which I must admit, I know it's only cross stitch only, but I really like it. And it's going really well. Fingers crossed at the minute. It's going really well. So loving that. But I've got obviously some patterns. So for instance, my Faces project, obviously the companion piece for that. But because I've only just really finished one, I'm not sure that I'm ready to sort of go and tackle another one. But obviously I've been watching all the YouTube videos and your whips and your updates and bits and pieces. And the one thing that, I don't know, one of the things that I've really wanted to do, and really recently, so it's not something I've been thinking of for a long time, but it is something that the more and more I'm seeing, the more I'm thinking, oh, I'd really like to try that. I'd really like to do that. And that's actually a Mirabilia. Now, to be honest, the Mirabilias, I think, I don't know why, but for me, they're more intimidating than the Heaven and Earth design. I mean, you probably disagree, but for me, Heaven and Earth design is literally just little X's. Doesn't matter how many of them there are, they're just X's. And worst case scenario, if you happen to put one colour in the wrong place, or you've got one or two that are out, it doesn't really hurt. It doesn't damage it. It doesn't make it clearly obvious. So there's room for error without it sort of, you don't have to sort of then think, oh no, I've got to frog the whole thing. You know, you can get away with making the odd mistake and it just blends in, it just disappears into either backgrounds or even in the faces, because there's so many varying colours and such a massive amount of colours. If you do go slightly wrong by one or two, you know, or the odd stitch in the wrong place, you can just use filling. It doesn't matter. Mirabilia, a completely different ball game. And obviously, I know I've done a little bit of beading, because obviously I did my brother's wedding sampler with beads on, and I googled how to do that, because there was two different ways that you could do it. You could come up with your first leg, stick the bead on, go down through your second leg, come up for a third leg, go back through the bead, and then down at the fourth leg. Or there was another version that I saw where you come up your first leg, you put the bead on, you go down your second leg, and then when you come up at your third leg, you split the two threads, because you have like two strands, and you put a thread either side. So I don't know which way is right, or whether it makes a difference of how your bead's going to sit. But obviously, if I was to do this Mirabilia, it will require working with metallics, which I've never worked with. And it will require me to do a lot of beading, which again, I've not done a lot of that, and I'm not even sure which of my ways that I've learned through YouTube are the right ways. So I sort of wanted to put it out there to you guys. I mean, obviously, a lot of people say, no, you're not a beginner anymore. You're a novice, and it makes no difference to experience. I'm not necessarily sure I agree with that, because someone just doing X's on a full coverage piece, I don't think is as daunting as the possibilities and of what could possibly go wrong on a Mirabilia. And the fact that it costs so much money to kit one of these up, I would hate to kit it up, make a start, and literally fall apart at the first hurdle. So I'm quite mindful, which is why I'm asking, you know, there's a lot of you out there that have done different Mirabilias, and there's a lot of you out there that are all different levels. You know, some have only been stitching a year or so, some have been stitching for years. Some of you seem to like them, some of you absolutely adore and love them, and some of you like them, but you sort of say, oh, you know, it all got a bit much, or there was far too much beading, you know, and it gets tiresome. So I thought I'd put it out there to you guys and ask you the question of, do you think that with my level of experience that I could I could cope with the Mirabilia. I mean, are the charts more difficult to follow? Is there a lot of backstitch? How hard is it to stitch with metallics? I mean, I know that Carolyn Mazzio done an amazing tutorial of how she works with metallics, but never actually holding a metallic in my hand or ever actually seeing how you stitch with it. I have no idea the concept of it. And obviously, you know, no doubt all of you, or most of you, have at some point in your entire time of stitching, have played around with metallics. And a lot of people absolutely detest them, and a lot of people say, well, I don't find it a problem. But obviously for someone such as myself, who's never worked with them, not really done that much beading, not really been cross-stitching for very long, is it something that I'm capable of doing? That's my question to you. I know I shouldn't really ask you, because you know, well, I should ask you, because you're my community. You're the ones that have inspired me to do what I do. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be cross-stitching. I certainly would never have touched a heaven and earth design. But now you've inspired me, and seeing the pieces, like when you've done close-ups of the Mirabilias, they're just adorable. But it's whether you have to be at a certain level, or experienced working with a lot of beads, or experienced working with a lot of metallics to be able to do it. So just so that I can show you on my iPad, I've got the chart, or not the chart, sorry, I'm not going to show you the chart, to be stupid. I've got the picture of the Mirabilia that I'd like to do. I don't know whether it's more complicated than any others, but the one that I would really, really like to do is Roses of Provence. That one. And I don't like the look of the fabric in the back of this one, but Pole Stitchers have actually got a fabric called, I think it's Truly Rose or something along that lines, which I really like the look of. So that's where I'm thinking of actually getting it from. So I was looking at buying the kit from Pole Stitchers. But before I go ahead and do that, I thought I'd ask the question to you guys and get a response as to the level of difficulty, levels of requirement. You know, is it anything like a heaven and earth design? Is there a comparison? Should I think not to do a Mirabilia and maybe just do a little Nora Cool Bit fairy instead? But I don't think I'd like to do a fairy instead. I mean, I know I don't want to throw myself in completely at the deep end, but then I like to stitch what I like. It's no good me stitching something I don't really like, or that isn't really something that I was considering stitching. But obviously I'll go with, you know, your advice and any help and assistance you can give me. So there you go. So that's that bit. That's what I'm thinking I want to do. Just to do something a bit different, because I've done heaven and earth, I've done faces, I've done, you know, I'm on Stormy, so that's another piece that's not full coverage, but I've never done an elegant lady. I've never done anything that's a bit more traditional. And I think now that I've actually moved over onto Even Weave and thoroughly fell in love with it, it's whether that's a good thing to do, whether I should give that a go. So I'll wait and hear from you guys and before I actually place any orders. But like I said, it's a lot of money. If majority of you would say, do you know what, Teresa, they're a lot harder than they look, or the patterns are not particularly easy to follow. You know, if you've only ever got a small amount of experience, then maybe not. But then maybe you could come up with a suggestion of an alternative if that be the case. So there you go. So that's what I was going to do that for. Next, I wanted to do some tags. So there's only two that I've found that I think that I've missed. So we've got the Whimsy Daisical tag, so Know My Needle Worker tag, which I thought I'd do because it looks quite fun. So where do you live? Can you not tell from the accent? Okay, so for those that know anything about England, then you know I live in England because of the accent. But if you truly know my accent, then you'll know that, and no jokes, we don't need to joke about this, and it's an utter myth about us. I live in Essex, so yes, I'm an Essex girl, and yes, I have an Essex accent. But we're not all like it is on the TV programme, I can assure you. We're actually really nice people. I am anyway. So yeah, so I live in Essex, which is not far from London. So we've got the joy of being just on the outskirts of London, so you've got loads of hustle and bustle if you want it, but if you don't want it, you don't go there, you stay local. What do you do for a living? Okay, well, for the last 10 months, I've not really done much for a living because I've been quite ill and stuck at home. But now that I'm sort of phasing back in, I'm an executive assistant. So basically a glorified high-level PA. That's basically what I am. And I do that. I personally assist my boss with everything. And he's adorable. He's a lovely, lovely man. I work up in the West End of London, which is on the complete opposite side of London to where I live. So I commute 4 hours a day, 2 hours in, 2 hours home. And on average, I would say that my day is around 8 to 10 hours of work time on top of my commuting. So yeah, very busy job. But totally love my job. I don't think I'd really want to be or do anything else unless it was something that really had a good cause to it. You know, like the sort of job that you've always wanted, but you would never consider it a job. But yeah, so I work in the West End of London, in a big office, but lots of commuting and quite far away. Do you have any children? Yes, I do. I have one. Only one. I did it once and decided that I would leave it to the rest of the women in Britain to populate Britain. Unfortunately, it wasn't for me. I had my daughter when I was 25, and I thought to myself, do you know what? Everyone has babies, and you know it must be a great experience. I didn't have such a great experience when she was little. Absolutely adored her after the first year, but the first year was hair-raising. In fact, I went back to work full-time when she was 7 weeks old because I couldn't cope. And I know that's very lame. My maternal instinct, I don't think, was particularly there. I don't know what I expected. I read lots of books that told me there would be this overwhelming mother and child bonding. I don't really think that happened. I think it completely went the opposite way. But then she never slept. You know, if you've got a baby that doesn't sleep for more than 20 minutes at a time, and it's like that for somewhere in the region of 10 weeks, and you know, I decided that I'd breastfeed because they were really pushing that here in the UK. If I'd have realised or I'd have known, then maybe I wouldn't have done that. It was a lot harder trying to do, you know, the whole mother and baby bonding and breastfeeding and doing everything else. So yeah, I struggled with the whole having child thing. And then when it got to the point that I actually found her a pleasure and it was enjoyable, just the thought of going back to that put me off of ever doing it again. So I only had one, and it is lovely because she is now just coming up for 16. She's very independent. She's a lovely, lovely girl. She's very much into her computers, pretty much a computer geek, just got her first boyfriend. Yeah, happy living at my house. You know, we have our odd moments having a teenager in the house, but she's not like a normal teenager, I think, because she's an only child. But I did ask her, when she was about 12, if she would want a brother or sister, because, you know, everyone kept saying to me, you can't have an only child, that's not fair. I asked her whether she wanted a little brother and sister, and she said no. And even to this day, if I say to her, you know, are you sure that you don't feel bad that you didn't have a brother or sister? Her answer is, well, no. She said, because then I would have to share you and then share all the money that you spend on me. And she didn't like that idea. So she's quite happy being an only child. So yeah, we stuck with one, and it's staying. There's no more coming. Do you have any pets? Yes, I have fur babies. I have 2 fur babies. Both fur babies are Cavalier King Charles Spaniels. I've got one Ruby and one Blenheim called Chester and Fudge. And they are my fur babies. They're lovely. And they get me up through the night when they're not well, and they cry and they get upset and they love their walkies. And so yeah, they're like babies that I didn't have to actually have. So I have my 2 babies. Chester, love him, he's about 10 years old now and he's starting to struggle. But Fudge is 6. And he's all over the place because he's a complete lunatic. So he makes up for the fact that Chester just likes to be a bit grumpy and sleep a lot these days. But yeah, adorable little fur babies I have. What other hobbies do you have besides stitching? Well, before I even started stitching, my biggest hobby was sport. So basically I live, breathe, eat, sleep, sport. particularly running. I was quite an avid runner. I've been a runner for a squad from the age of 12. I did that until I was about 17. Then I came away from the squad and just basically run for fun. I've done some bits and pieces in latter years, because obviously running is hard on the body. I switched over and done some cycling as well. Done the London to Brighton bike ride and got quite into cycling, and then damaged myself. So basically I got compartment syndrome in my leg, had to have surgery on that, and within 2 years I damaged the discs in my neck, which is the reason that I've been off work for so long. Since then, no other hobbies. The only hobby I have is cross stitch. So I do intend to go back to doing some sport, but obviously with the problems I've got now, I need to be a lot more careful. So I'm planning on doing 3 or 4 times a week sport, and the rest of the time cross stitch. So it will be my one hobby. What is your favourite movie? Wow, now there's a difficult one. Now, believe it or not, I'm not just into real modern stuff. So I'd say on the modern side, Avatar. I don't know why, because it's sci-fi and it's not, but I loved it. I loved the blue people. You know, they were really tall blue people with very cute, sparkly faces. So Avatar. But if I'm honest, the biggest movies that I love is Audrey Hepburn movies, because I think she's just adorable. So like Breakfast at Tiffany's. You know, I love all the old movies. So my mum always says I was born in the wrong era. I should have been born in like the 1950s. But yeah, so I love all the old musicals and old movies. Audrey Hepburn, Doris Day, yeah, love it. But then obviously I'm not adverse to newer stuff. So Avatar, some of the sci-fi stuff I'm quite into. What is your favourite TV show? Oh, by far, Grey's Anatomy. Love Grey's Anatomy. I don't know whether Game of Thrones would fall into TV shows because they're series. So yeah, if I can have Game of Thrones and Grey's Anatomy, then that's it, because I don't really watch TV that much. Favourite book? I would honestly say the most powerful book that I've ever read has got to be A Thousand Splendid Suns. And off the top of my head, I cannot remember who wrote the book. Let me Google it. A Thousand Splendid... Oh God, it's not even doing it. A Thousand Splendid Suns. Oh, I can't even pronounce the name. I'll put it in the link down there. I can't remember, but it's A Thousand Splendid Suns. The scene is set in Afghanistan in the early 1960s. And Miriam, a young girl in the 1960s, grew up in a small city of Afghanistan. Her life was very complicated, and basically it gives you an overview of how her life goes, based out in Afghanistan and Kabul. Yeah, that I cried, I sobbed. I can only imagine what it must have been like. But the best book I've ever read. It's the only book that I can honestly say that touched my heart. So for those of you, if you put into Google A Thousand Splendid Suns, the same author is the one that done The Kite Runner. But yeah, that's the book. That's the book for me. What is your favourite music? Now, that's a bit difficult because I've got a 16-year-old daughter. So I like older stuff. I was born in the 70s, but got basically dragged up as a child listening to 60s and 70s music. But now obviously I've got a daughter that's well into dubstep. So, so you know, 1 minute I'll be listening to your classics, you know, your ABBAs and your Queens and My mum's a Cliff Richard fan, so you know we have a lot of Cliff Richard going on. But then at the same time, at the other end of the spectrum, there will be lots of R&B, dubstep, drum and bass, jungle. So yeah, quite a varied array. Depends on my mood, if I'm honest. And even recently, when I'm doing some stitching, this is going to sound really lame, I have actually sat and listened to classical music. Yep, I know. But I find it really quite therapeutic along with my therapeutic stitching. Okay, so last one, number 10. What one word best describes you? Fair. I don't mean fair-haired. I mean fair. I'm very much an unjudging individual. Come across as bouncy and bubbly and outgoing, and I am. I'm all of those. But then equally, I can be just as quiet and just as reserved, just as indecisive. But the one thing that I definitely am not is judgmental of anyone. So yeah, but then I think my star sign says that. I'm a Libra cross Virgo, and they're renowned for being very harmonious in some respects. When it comes to sort of, you know, like the scales, for instance, I balance things up. I never just go on one side of a story. There's always two sides to a story. I'm never negative or positive. I'll be very much sort of, you know, I'll sit in the middle. I'm the person that would sit on the fence. So yeah, balanced, I think, is the only way to describe me. I'm balanced. I'm equally happy, and when I'm quiet, I'm equally quiet. I'm not really one of anything. But I am a very outgoing person. I am normally, genuinely, a very happy person. So yeah, that's me. So okay, so that's the Know Your Needlework tag. The other tag that I wanted to do was the Stash Queen tag. Great tag, love this tag. Thank you for putting it out there to answer the questions, although I'm not sure I can necessarily answer all of them, so let's give this a go. So what is your favourite pattern in your stash that you haven't started yet, and what has kept you from starting it? Okay, by far the favourite pattern that I have got is Save the Stitches. I think everyone that has stitched it, that I've seen, it looks amazing. It's beautiful, it's different, yeah, love it. What has kept me from starting it? I don't think I'm good enough yet to try it. I know that it can be a bit more complicated. It's a bit like black work, and I've not really done any black work. So yeah, so I've got the pattern, because my game plan eventually is within 10 years I want to be able to say that I've stitched it, but I'm just not quite ready to approach it as yet. Maybe someone can do a tutorial on how to do Save the Stitches each block with a very... The camera, it died again. What can I say? My camera's got like this own little shut-off system, I'm sure. It's like, it gets to a certain point, it's like, right, we're bored of listening to you. So I apologise. So yes, no, Save the Stitches. So if anyone ever wants to do a square by square tutorial of how to do each pattern, I would be really interested. I don't know about anybody else. So yeah, Save the Stitches is the one that's in my stash that I would love to do, and the reason I haven't is because I just don't think I'm ready for it yet. What is your favourite non-pattern item in your stash? Non-pattern item in your stash. What is your favourite non-pattern? Okay, so the way I'm interpreting that is that you're not talking about patterns at all. So what is my favourite item in my stash? So I'm going to answer that. By far, my Manelium frames and stands. Best investment I've ever made in my entire life. And it was well worth the wait for me. What do you have the most of in your stash? Patterns, floss, fabric, or other beads, etc. Well, obviously you knew I was doing beading once before I started doing cross stitch, so I think by far I've got more beads than any of the above. I haven't really got that much fabric. I do have a fair amount of floss now, although it's nowhere near what you guys have got. You know, I've seen some of you when you've showed us what you've got, and I'm like, wow. Wow, I haven't got anywhere near that. So I've got, I've got some silks, I've got DMC, but yeah, I haven't really got a lot. Patterns, they're starting to accumulate. I'm doing quite well with those, but again, not a lot. So yeah, definitely more beads than I have anything else. So maybe I need to do more beading with the beads I've got. Number 4, besides your LNS and the big box craft shops, where is your favourite place to buy stitching supplies? Okay, so big box craft shops, I don't think we have that in the UK. LNS, I don't think we have that in the UK. So I would say majority of the time, all of my products are purchased online, which is actually I think that's the reason why I haven't got that much stuff, because I like to see it in the flesh. I like to see what I'm buying, because I've had some experiences, let's say, with buying online. What you think you're going to get and what you actually get are two different things. That no matter how good their pictures are, it doesn't actually look the same in person. But I personally spend most of my time purchasing from places like Crafty Kitten, So-and-so, where else have I purchased from? All over, but basically Stitch Heaven. So yeah, everything that I've ever purchased really is online. On the odd occasion that I've gone to the local Hobbycraft, they've got a fair supply of DMC threads, so you can always get your DMCs from there, but their fabrics and their supplies other than that are pretty lame. I mean, their fabrics is like sort of Ada and even weave, but it's one colour, it's all white. So yeah, no, don't really do Hobbycraft unless I'm going out specifically to pick up DMC if I've run out because I haven't been good enough to order. But I would say 90% or 80% of what I've purchased so far has been from so-and-so here in the UK. Name one item you have purchased that was not meant for cross-stitch use that you have repurposed for your craft. My iPad. My iPad doesn't get used anymore, not for the same thing. So my iPad is basically for my GoodNotes reader, and that's it. And it sits on my Manelium frame, all plugged in all the time, so that it's got 100% charge, so that it never runs out. But yeah, my iPad is actually a cross-stitch pattern book now. So the iPad isn't used for anything else. Name one item. Oh, I've done that one. Name one item in your stash that you were enabled to purchase after seeing someone else with that item. One has to be my Manelium frame and stand, and the other, I think that's it really. That's the one thing. Oh, and my needle minders. My needle minders. Obviously, I'd never heard of needle minders when I first started, and it was only the fact that when you were showing us your whips that we could see your needle minders. I was like, wow, I need to have them. But when I was Googling at first, you just got the real old-fashioned needle minders, and then the more I found out about the community and went onto some Facebook pages and stuff, I found that there's actually loads out there. So yeah, that I was well and truly enabled then. So I have a few of those. If someone asks you what was the one most have pattern that they had to have in their stash, which pattern would it be? If someone asked you what was the one must have pattern in their stash, what would it be? Now there's a question. The one must have, well then it's got to be Save the Stitches, hasn't it? Because I just would love to be able to do that one, and you have to have it. I mean, I don't intend to do that one for years and years and years, but I had to have it. That's me personally. Heaven and Earth designs, there are a few on there, so I wouldn't really say specifics. But yeah, no, I think personally the Save the Stitches is the pattern that everyone should have in their stash and work towards it, like I am. If someone asks you what one designer they had to check out to enhance their stitches, who would it be? Well, Since as the start of my video was about Mirabilia and the fact that I'm overwhelmed by it, and everyone that has done it, or a lot of the people that talk about them say, you know, like the piece de resistance, they have everything in it. They've got bling, they've got beads, they've got stitching. I would say it's probably a Mirabilia. And if it's not a Mirabilia, a Nora Corbett, then I have no idea. For me, that would be the one designs that everyone should have at least one of in their stash. So there you go. So I've done 2 tags at one time and talked your ears off, as I always do. Thank you so much for everyone that answered my tag. It's been super helpful and funny to watch some of you doing the tag. That's been fun. Totally love the answers. They're so varied, and there's so many different answers that have come back that have been so helpful, because, you know, one person will say, no, I don't use lights, and another person will be like, oh yeah, I use this light, and then you've got someone else that says, have you thought about using like this type of light? And you're like, cha-ching, and it's like, now I like the sound of that. So I mean, the tag bit, it works. Well, my tag has worked because I'm not experienced enough and I don't really know what works for me and what doesn't. The fact that you guys have told me what works for you, that helps me then make a decision, and it gives me choices, because the last thing you want to do is go off your own back and make a decision and buy something and then find that you've wasted your money because it doesn't work, because then all of a sudden someone else says, oh, well, I do this or I do that, and you're like, damn it, why didn't I know that before? You know, because that's much more me. I don't think any one person is wrong. I just think that to have a collective view of what other people do, you can then get a feel for what do you think would work for yourself. So for me, the tag was really, really important, and I can only thank you all so much. For those that don't do videos and that have sent me messages, amazing, and they've been so thorough. They've been, you know, really giving me a lot of detail, which is great, and I love it. So yes, thank you everyone for doing my tag, and it's been super helpful. And like I've said before, this is a great community. So for anyone that's watching videos or has only just started watching videos and happens to fall across this one and has listened to me ramble for so long, FlossTube is by far the best community of individuals and people with like-minded people. You know, we're all different people, yet we've all collectively got the same interest. And the support and the, you know, the inspiration that you get, you know. So if you're having an off day where you're just not feeling it, you're not feeling the day, and then you don't really fancy doing any stitching, and then you watch a few FlossTube videos, then all of a sudden it's like, oh no, I'm gonna get my stitching out now, you know, because she's doing so well, and that's really inspired me. So yeah, this community, you're all amazing people, and I love you all dearly. And for everyone that's, you know, for my regular people that answer, you know, or send me lovely comments, you know, I really appreciate it. And for the new people, you know, the new people that sort of say, oh, you know, I just fell over your video, really do appreciate the support and the fact that people comment, you know, and either point you in the right direction or help you or just give you that little bit of encouragement that sometimes you need, especially when you're sort of faltering or things aren't going quite so well and you've had a day where it's just like, if I have to frog another piece of stitching, I'm just going to scream. Those are the moments that, you know, I sit there and think, oh, really? And then I sit and listen to other people and they're going through exactly the same thing. And then you sort of sit there and think, all right, suck it up, Teresa, because it's not such a big deal, you know. There's other people out there doing exactly the same thing. It's a silly mistake to make, but it's a mistake that's fixable. And that's what I like about this sort of community and the coming together of individuals. Everyone's there to support. You know, there's no judging. I mean, well, of anyone, I should have probably been judged more than anyone because I was so new and didn't really have a clue what I was doing. And no one has judged me. I've had nothing but support, inspiration, help. Lots of offers of, you know, if you need, just ask me a question and I'll answer. I couldn't have asked for a better community of people. And it's a good job because I don't have anyone to stitch with. So thank you all very much. And that's enough of me rambling now. And I'm sorry I don't have anything to show you, but I just wanted to do those tags and get your ideas of what you think on the Mirabilia. So I will sit very patiently and wait to see what you all say. And I will catch you on the next video where I will actually do some updates of whips. So take care and happy stitching all. Ciao, ciao.